Welcome everyone to GoodTalks, our monthly live stream covering all of the different topics within the analytics sphere. I'm Harry Dix, your host for today, and in today's episode, we'll be covering the topic of AI and analytics. Today, I'm joined by Ryan Dolly.
Hey everybody.
And Mirek Koldus. Ryan Dolly is our VP of product strategy here at GoodData. And Mirek is senior product manager working on some of these AI innovations. So they're both brilliantly placed to kind of give you a great outlook on how we see kind of AI shaping the analytics kind of environment, sphere, industry, some of the key trends and the kind of directions we think it might be going in. These are some of the kind of questions I'll be asking them today to really paint you a picture of kind of what we can expect AI to give us within data analytics, within BI, some of the kind of exciting things that have been, I'm sure you've all seen kind of popping up quite frequently lately. So without further ado, let's jump in. Before we do, and before I go into the questions, just a couple of kind of housekeeping topics. We'll go through all of our questions, try to paint you a brilliant picture of AI and analytics. As always, if you have any questions in mind, feel free to put them into the comment section. We'll try to address them either as we go where relevant, or we'll try to answer as many as we can at the end. If we run out of time, don't worry, we'll get to them in the comment section after the show, along with some links to further content. So, what actually is AI and data analytics? What does it look like within data analytics and BI specifically?
Yeah. So thanks for attending, everybody. I'll take a stab at it, I guess, and then Mirek will see. We'll see whether or not you agree with me there. So I think when you talk about AI and analytics, actually, if you look at it historically, there's been this kind of set of tools around machine learning or natural language query, maybe some degree of kind of built-in algorithms in your analytics or business intelligence platform. And that's been there for a long time. If you look at the space, we've got vendors like ThoughtSpot, for example. Their whole thing is kind of natural language query. What's changed, and the reason why we're having this talk, of course, is that last October, GPT 3.5 came out and kind of blew everybody's minds. And so the definition of AI and analytics is actually, I think because of that, it's changing rapidly. I think a lot of the types of things that we used to be able to do in AI and analytics have advanced rapidly in terms of the capabilities that you have, and then and then there's new capabilities coming on board that we haven't even imagined yet, and I think that'll be part of today's topic of conversation.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the generative AI in particular has been kind of a fresh wind into industry that hasn't really innovated itself too much in the past years. And I think we will talk about this a little bit later, but also the whole kind of promise of self-service analytics is something that we can finally get a new attempt to finally deliver on that promise, because one of the values of AI or LLMs in particular in the data analytics for me is time to value and time to market. And I think building smarter data products is one of the major benefits that we will get from this new technology.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, in terms of the self-service you mentioned, it brings that extra level of kind of interactivity, right? Particularly on the front end where users really can just quickly pose questions, as Ryan was mentioning with the NLQ, but also it can help them to really dig deeper into some of the visualization, some of the data in front of them, and to extract the information kind of more quickly and pinpoint on certain things, right? I kind of related to AI, and while we're still kind of trying to paint this initial picture here, that you also kind of hear the term of augmented analytics. How how do you say they differ? Are they one and the same? Is one part of the other? How would you paint that picture? Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think one is kind of part of the other. I think the idea of augmented analytics in my mind really comes down to doing what we can to infuse AI into kind of the existing BI experience and analytics experience, so that in the ways that make the most sense. So just traditionally, the way you build dashboards and visualizations is you have some drag and drop interface and that sort of thing, right? And so where does the augmentation come in? We say, well, can we have the machine do some or even all of that at the direction of the human being, right? So that's kind of the augmentation, is it's taking the traditional BI experience and then layering in these kind of AI driven experiences. And it's not just, I would say, you need to think deeply about what all you can augment. Like, there's building dashboards is obvious, and everybody's talking about that, but LLMs and AI are great at generating code. So if you have a code-based analytics platform, is there an opportunity? I think the answer is yes, to use the AI to kind of augment the developer experience, not just the chart builder experience or the consumer experience. And so that's kind of my take, at least, on when people say augmented analytics, what they mean.
Yeah, I think I will just add that for me, it's the augmentation happens throughout the end-to-end journey of the data product. That even in the stages where your analytical team is building the foundations for the data product, like data preparation or data enrichment, even there is something that augmentation can help a lot. And I think one of the benefits of this is the time to value, as we mentioned, but also just the increased interactivity with the data product itself. Because I think when you don't need the analytical engineer to help you build more analytics, more insights, more dashboards, and you can get to your answers easier even without having that analytical knowledge or technical knowledge. It just helps you to really get the answers that you need without really going to your data science team and getting the answers for you.
Yeah, so in essence, kind of essentially automating as many parts that are obviously make the most sense to automate to increase efficiency and basically get those answers quicker. And you kind of half answered this, but we can dig into it a little bit more. I mean, can you explain kind of who really benefits from the AI and data analytics? And I think you've kind of outlined that already to some extent. You have the end users, and you have kind of NLQ and the things where you're really using it to kind of enhance the visualization, the dashboarding experience. But then, as you started to mention, you also have the part where you can start automating things and basically taking some of the workload away from the analytics engineers, away from kind of the back end. Could you kind of expand on that more, or is there certain areas where you think that it would be kind of specifically useful?
Yeah, Mirek, you want to start on this one, and I'll come in.
Yeah, I think, like, for me, I would mention that nice part about this innovation of this new exciting technology is that there is a lot of value that we can't even imagine that this technology will bring us, because it's definitely opening new use cases. It's opening a new way how we even consume data analytics in the first place. But what I would highlight here, besides the self-service that I have already mentioned, is just the fact that all the personas that are involved in the life cycle of the data products can benefit it. From the time to value, from the analytical engineer perspective, from the data consumer who can actually get to the answers in much easier way. So the part that I would highlight here is that the benefits are happening for all the personas that are involved, and more that we don't even know what it will be. So that's the exciting part for me.
Yeah, me too. And I think the and more is like the most exciting part, because it's easy. There's certain experiences that are easy to imagine, right? Like you think about, the most obvious thing that AI and augmentation can do, or one of them, is identify relationships or outliers in data sets without a human being having to find them, right? And that's that's super valuable. And I think that's good. It's just an example of something that is really going to help people. But it's the stuff that I'm very excited for where this is going to be in 3 or 4 years. The things that we haven't thought of yet. After we've added AI into the classic analytics and BI experience, and we reach the, okay, what's next phase? Like that's when it's really going to get exciting and very cool, in my opinion. And I think that's going to, I mean, that time is approaching maybe a little faster than people think.
And do you think kind of what are the main kind of, I don't know, like the components of the AI that you'd be working with? I mean, you mentioned kind of like LLMs are obviously very important, but can you kind of break it down into the different parts of it to paint a picture?
Yeah. Eric?
So I think, again, LLM or natural language interface as a chatbot kind of interface is the most intuitive one, and that's ChatGPT. That's what we are all playing with and exploring. How this is going to work. So right there, you already have a new interface, how to access your data, how to actually ask for the questions that you didn't know how to ask in some of the BI tools that we currently use. So that's already like new interface, how to consume the data, the new innovation. But I think that's fun. But as we mentioned in the beginning, AI is not only about LLMs. It's also about machine learning, kind of the traditional one, which also innovates itself. There is a lot of new tools or relatively new tools that are getting more powerful. And I think Jupyter Notebook is another exciting way how people can get access to analytics without having to study dashboards or start their journey with dashboards. There is a data story, which is a little bit also a different take on how we can present the data. So it's not just about the intelligent algorithms on the chat interface. There's a lot of new ways how we are thinking about how to get the data to the people so that they can understand them well, that they can actually start working with the data. And that also relates to something like automation, right? We recently published an article about our vision for new take on data alerts that also has to do a lot with AI, and maybe you can completely skip some traditional ways to go straight into automation, so that the speed of the decision making, while based on found data, is something that companies can benefit from. So a lot of new interfaces are also emerging around the AI. Maybe not everything is directly related to the AI, but AI is kind of bringing that value into this. Ryan, what do you think?
I think that's a key piece of this, actually, is like the way, like the LLM is maybe going to give us it is going to give us a new option for a front end and an interactive experience between people and their data. But one of the questions that you'll have to answer, and that we're working on here at GoodData, is, okay, how does that then fit in with the other interfaces, the other, in our case, product features? In your case, it may be, multiple products that you're bringing together in your data practice. How can the LLM be a portal to that stuff? A Jupyter notebook, like an LLM, is not going to just replace all Jupyter notebooks. Mirek mentioned Jupyter. We're huge Jupyter fans here at GoodData. And so the question then kind of becomes, okay, how can my LLM interact with these sorts of technologies or interfaces to make it easier for people to consume it? But those things like Jupyter and the work your data scientists are doing, if anything, I think are going to be accelerated by the LLM rather than replaced by it. And the LLM, ChatGPT or whatever it is going to give you a better interface that people can more easily find and interact with the stuff that your data scientists and data engineers are building, rather than just kind of a straight up replacement for it.
And I think I actually check our comments, and we already have actually a question from the audience on this very topic. Will ChatGPT or LLMs really replace dashboard? And I think what you provided is really like sensible answer to this question. That I think at least in the early stages, I also see it more as an enrichment of the experience, where you still will have visualizations. even dashboards, even PDF exports. I don't think they are going away. People are used to working with them. People know how to read them. But I think what LLMs is giving us is the next step, right? So you see something interesting is the dashboard, and the time to understanding what is behind that sudden spike in your trend line and stuff like that. That's really where AI can give you a lot of power and a lot of, again, time to value to really getting into that insight. And we are back to the augmentation.
Exactly. Yeah. So I agree. Like, it's not going to replace dashboards and reports. The AI, at least not in the short term, it will explain dashboards and reports. It can build some elements or even all of a dashboard or report. Like, we have a prototype internally of, asking an LLM some questions and it building a full GoodData dashboard for you. But it is not going to fully replace that experience. You're still going to want the dashboard, at least for you'll be looking at visualizations, and you'll want to analyze 5 different trends at the same time. And the way you're going to do that is you take 5 trend lines and put them on one screen. That's a dashboard. But the AI will be maybe building and helping to interpret those results for you. And then in the long term, you'll hear me say this a lot. Like, I don't know. Nobody knows what this is going to look like in 15 years. And I would caution you, anybody who says they do know is not being truthful with you.
So would you say that, like, for the short term, then the kind of the key areas are basically like speed and shortening the learning curve? Or do you think it's more than that? I mean, from the point of view of like the speed of getting the answer you want to get, and I'm coming from the kind of, I guess, the end user point of view, but the speed of the answer you want to get, but also being able to understand what you're looking at a lot more quickly, and having, obviously, you have that helper to kind of, when you need it, you can kind of ask it, or it can point you in the right way and guide you where you wouldn't usually have that with traditional dashboards. You're kind of looking for things. Okay, maybe you've had that report made for you specifically, so you kind of know what to look for. You might just have someone shared it with you, so you're searching rather than having this kind of, essentially, this assistant on the side that can point you in the right direction and find the answers you're looking for.
Yeah.
I think also, like, the exciting part is about that the whole workflow also, like, dashboards, reports, that doesn't have to change, but maybe what will change is the way how we build them. Imagine that you actually do have some sort of ChatGPT or some interface where you can converse with the team, and throughout this conversation you are building the dashboard that you are then save and distribute. That's something that is actually quite powerful, because you have collaboration embedded in the journey of building the products, but still the outcome can be the dashboard that you can utilize the standard way, and then the consumer can keep asking the chatbot for more details and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely there is a lot of use cases that we can explore, and we are exploring with our innovation team. But I would also mention the new interfaces, and I think that's something that we desperately needed, because dashboard, embedded visualization, that just takes first of all takes forever to build end to end. All the stuff that is underneath, and also it's static, right? Like a lot of sharing still ends somewhere in the emails and stuff like that. So I think the fact that we have new visualization options, like we mentioned, notebooks, we have ChatGPT already. You have new interfaces how to consume the data, and for some cases you can replace the dashboards completely, or some use cases. For others, no. For others, you probably don't want to have chat interface for the consumers, but you can still utilize it for building the dashboard in the first place. So for me, this is mostly, at this point, at least in the short term, it's about flexibility, both for the analytics builders as well as consumers. And you really can do more, because you have more pieces of the puzzle that you can work with.
Where it's really going to have an immediate and huge impact is in the kind of the ad hoc query world, where you as an individual are going to get the answer to a single question. All right. It can do that now, and it can do it as well or better than previous to existing tools and methods. When you want to communicate, get everybody on the same page, and go to a team and say, hey, everybody, like, we all need to observe these metrics. We need to align on what we're trying to accomplish. You're still going to use a dashboard for that, right? But it's going to replace a lot of that ad hoc query. And I honestly view this, I think there's going to be this ramp And it's going to be pretty seamless and happen really quickly in my mind, where we're going to go from the AI as an assistant, like you're going in trying to answer a question and the AI is sitting there helping you, to the AI is actually doing the work proactively and going to you and saying, hey, here are things I found. What do you want to do about this? Just kind of surfacing, hey, here's some anomalies, and it's up to you to take some action. I don't think we're that far away from a world where the AI is both surfacing the anomalies and telling you what you should do, and then it's just up to you to do it, right? And so that's kind of I think that's going to be a pretty smooth ramp we're going to see over the next couple of years, to the point where many human beings are quite comfortable getting some list of like, here's what happened in the data, and here are the things I think you should do about it. And then your decision is just, do you agree with the AI's advice? Do you carry out those instructions that you received from the machine?
In order to facilitate that, and we're talking about kind of the existence of dashboards and the ease of building them, etc. What kind of role does a solid semantic layer play in that? Do you think that is kind of like a must-have? Is there a way around it? What's your take on that, Ryan?
Yeah. Yes. No, there's no way around it. And yes, it's extremely important. So here's the deal with a semantic layer. The AI, what a semantic layer, I'm very passionate about this. What a semantic layer gives you is it gives you the business context for the information. So let's think about if you have a semantic layer, what are you giving the AI? What are you providing for it? First of all, you're giving it a very you're giving it a defined but very broad scope. And what I mean by that is, there's kind of there's at least two kinds of BI tools. One of them is scoped where you've got a data set and a dashboard, and those are tightly integrated. And one is scoped where you've got a data model that can feed dozens or hundreds or thousands of dashboards. Okay. And that second type, where you have a semantic layer, is what we have at GoodData. And because you've got this semantic layer, it's got business context, and it has a very broad scope that predefines relationships and has business context added into the model. You've got an incredible starting point for training an AI model, compared to, if you're just pointing it at some raw data, or even if you've done some data modeling, but you have a very narrow scoped data set that just feeds one dashboard. And fundamentally what I mean by this is, if you have a semantic layer and you've defined something like revenue, okay, the AI can, and you've got kind of this canonical definition of revenue. When you train the AI, there's only one place it needs to look at to understand the revenue in your company and the relationship between the revenue and all the other data points that you may have. Versus if you've got revenue defined in 170 different data sets and 170 different dashboards, you actually have quite a complicated problem. You've made it much harder to train an AI, because the question becomes, which of the 170 revenues is the one that when an end user asks a question about revenue, the AI should refer to? And so they're really, having a semantic layer is like the cheat code to training an AI to provide accurate answers, to avoid hallucinations, and to really be more useful for your end users compared to any other approach you're going to take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I can throw in a little bit of an anecdote that everybody internally already knows, so I can mention it here as well. Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I actually attended a webinar from AWS on the Gen AI for the business leaders, and they talked a lot about various aspects of Gen AI and what can do. But there was a theme that they kept coming to, that everybody has access to the same LLMs right nowadays. They are widely accessible. And they can do the same stuff for everybody. But the key point of the conference or webinar was that if you want to surprise your competition and bring something that other competitors can't, is that you are going to have to train that model, that conversation, into something that actually can provide personalized answers that are relevant to your business. your specific offerings and stuff like that. And it has to do a lot with the quality data that you can use and that Ryan just described. And semantic layer is that next layer of actually having the data prepared well, so that you can connect it to the LLMs, so that you can use that as part of your solution or internally in your company.
And yeah, there's actually, I noticed there's a couple of questions in the comments that are probably quite relevant now. One is, many companies have introduced AI integration much sooner than GoodData. Can we expect GoodData to play catch up with the competitors?
Leapfrog. Lord is leapfrog. Sorry, go ahead, Merrick.
Our favorite word these days, of course. Yeah, I think again, I can a little bit approach it from the anecdotal standpoint. We started this innovation team a couple of months ago. And yes, we started with competitor analysis as well, and seen that a lot of our competitors implemented some form of ChatGPT months ahead of us. But what we realized pretty quickly is most of it is really just demoware, that they didn't progress too far. And one of the things that, where we believe that our competitors are struggling is that, first of all, they don't have a good semantic layer. So it kind of nicely ties to our previous discussion topics. But also a lot of the platforms are not really defined as an open platform that can easily integrate to something outside of the ecosystem that they are actually targeted to. Right, and one of the benefits of GoodData is that it's built on top of programmatic best practices, like CI/CD. We have open APIs that you can use to consume our semantic layer, and that's something that is really has helped us to be very quick in terms of catching up in our exploration of these new technologies. So I believe we are not that behind anymore, and hopefully we will give you our customers and prospect access to some of these features so they can explore them as well.
Yeah, you should definitely watch this space. We'll have something more concrete to unveil in December.
And speaking about the importance of the semantic layer, one more question. Can we use the semantic layer to influence decisions? And can we consider historical data to influence the decision with ML?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually one of the things that the semantic layer will be best at, is helping you train an AI that's able to influence decisions, and that can take into account things like business context. Because when, for those of you who don't know, maybe, what the semantic layer does is it goes beyond just, hey, here's a field with a field name and some data, and it gives you the business context for that field. What is it related to? What does it mean? Are there synonyms for the field, right? And so all of that gets fed into the LLM as well, which allows it to draw relationships and make inferences in a way that it can't. I shouldn't say it can't. It will try to, no matter what. The question is, how accurate is it going to be, right? And if you feed in this information, it's going to be a lot more accurate. If you don't feed in this information, it's just going to make stuff up, is what they tend to do. And so the danger for you, of course, will be they're very convincing either way. You will be reading the answer, and it will seem equally great. But one of them is based on a really solid foundation, and the other one, the LLM may be just hallucinating. And you won't really know that unless you personally possess the context and the knowledge of the data and the relationships between the data points to be able to read the LLM's answers and say, no, that's not right. And so, I mean, yes, Ahmed, yes, the answer is it can help you influence decisions, and should take into account things like historical information when helping to do that.
I actually believe we have a perfect innovation activity just that actually answers this question, right? What we did quite recently, and I mentioned this before, we did this smart alerting system where we actually, instead of sending the information or the alert to email, we actually did integration with Zapier, so that you can build pretty much any automation that you need. But instead of just doing flat benchmarks, for your data alerts, we actually have a prototype of setting up an alert which is anomaly detection for metric, right? The metric is part of the semantic layer, and it monitors the data, and whenever it kind of jumps out to the trend that you would expect, that's when it fires the event. So I think it's just one use example of what you probably are asking for. But yes, combination of the smart algorithm as semantic layer and integration with other tools where you can make decision or collaborate. That's actually part of our innovation program as well.
And I think we're just about time to wrap up. We can squeeze in one last question from the comments. How do we know, or do we have a tool for? Do we have a tool or an AI that can calculate and tell us a rate of data quality, such as like 80% good data?
I like how you sneaked good data into the question.
Yeah, Mirek, you take this one.
No, I was going to say that you probably are referring to something like data observation tooling. So yes, the short answer is to some extent this is possible. I would almost say that you don't necessarily need AI to run these operations, but what you can do is have some sort of smart, let's say, interface that controls the quality data every time you refresh your data, you upload a new one. It can definitely help you to check, for missing values, for missing information on your time dimension, stuff like that. It's not necessarily AI, but the AI can definitely help to analyze trends, like anomaly detection that goes a little bit beyond a simple SQL query. So in this area, definitely there are use cases that we are exploring, and some of them are even, I would say, commodity features in many BI platforms already.
Cool. Well, I think that's about all we have time for. So thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Mirek, for answering all my questions, for painting this brilliant picture of what AI currently looks like and will look like in data analytics. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Thanks for your questions. If you have any further questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll try to get to them as soon as possible. We'll also post some links to further content, some blog articles, some web pages that you can go to some further reading, further learning. And we hope to see you next time at Good Talks in about a month's time. Thanks very much, all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.